Yep. And it goes all the way to here.
Michael, were you here on the last briefing?
No, I wasn't. But I saw it on YouTube though.
Oh, okay.
And the one before I saw on YouTube.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the one before I was actually out there in New York. The one in New York.
Okay.
Yeah, I was there.
Brooklyn.
Yeah, Brooklyn, and that was Automatics' UAM center. And
Okay.
and then yeah, we did that, and then the last one, and then this one here.
So
When
where
you
you
first?
where you at now?
I'm in Cali.
Okay.
Yeah, where you at?
Oh, I'm in Brooklyn, New York.
Everyone ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're ready. So everybody mute.
Yeah, I'm ready. The other lady's not here though. The one for Hawaii. She here?
No, I don't think so.
Can everyone now see the Gottigan piece up?
Yes.
Praise God.
Yes.
All right. Yes. Yeah. So we're sorry for the interruption there, but can everyone now see the Gottigan piece up? Yes.
Yes.
Praise God.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So we're sorry for the interruption there, but can everyone now see the Gottigan piece up? Yes.
Yes.
You have
Yes.
sorry for the interruption there, but can everyone now see the Gottigan piece up? Yes.
Yes.
Sorry for the interruption there, but
Can you all hear us?
Yes.
Okay. We're on.
okay. Okay, so,
Yes, I hear you.
okay. Yeah. So this piece I would, in those of you who can download it.
Or we'll send you an email if you record.
Yes. You need to frame it up and put it in your living rooms. Put it in the kids' bedrooms. They have to be faced with this literally every second of their life, to remember that this is a God's victory and it's for eternity. And so you know, this hasn't really happened, at least in recent memory. You know, so this is extremely critical. What you're seeing here is extremely critical. And so you have to understand this to see what clay math represents. And also to understand what BBC represents. So it's extremely critical. Now we're going to go now into a contrast
No.
on what is very loudly cleared here and stated here.
We understand.
More than
Wait.
quite a few of you agree on what this document represents. And for a so-called promoter of mathematics to be totally unaware of this and pretending GAGUT doesn't exist, as I said before, is not only an insult on us, the creatures, but it's an insult on God. And it takes a lot of guts for anyone to do that, which is where I draw the line. My purpose here is to, to not only glorify God, but to ensure every creature glorifies the Almighty God. And you can know that's my calling because you're looking at a document that those who transcended, the power of evil were able to see very loud and clear, to be able to see the truth, which is a power in itself, because the truth is power.
I'll send it to you again. Just a second.
Truth is power. And the reason you know that to be correct is, hey, guess who has the most truth? That's the Almighty God, because God has the truth, the totality. God is the totality of the truth.
Check your inbox. Yeah,
so, because God is the most powerful, therefore the truth is associated with power. So, claimant not only ignore this and expecting you to be unable to decipher the truth. In order to really neutralize your whole essence, every creature is created for a purpose. For the black people, is to provide leadership and symbolism of God on a creature's level. And when you're given the ultimate blessing like this, and Jim Crow is hoping that you would ignore it, I mean, it's equivalent of saying that you're not going to accept a call into heaven. That's what it means, because this is an actual call into heaven. Because like I said before, heaven is a state of existence characterized by very huge intelligence or understanding of the reality. And that you must be able to speak God's language. And that makes a lot of sense, because you can't live in a town or a house where you cannot communicate with your roommates or your townmates and stuff like that. So the language, the only language God speaks is the truth, is GAGUT. So, so for you to be where God is, you have to speak that language. You have to. If you can't speak that language, you don't have a chance being in the same place with God. You cannot be in heaven. So therefore, and if you can speak the language, you don't even need to die before you get into heaven. That's where I am. I'm in heaven. I'm in heaven, believe it or not, because I speak God's language. And that's where you need to be. It doesn't matter what any book told you. All the books, past, present, and the future, in terms of trying to present facts, in terms of God order or infallible truths, they're all embedded in the Gij, comma j equal to 0. All of them. The part of them that are true. Past, present, and the future. So, and that's, so when God gives you that, you don't have a choice but speak that kind of language. That's what I speak. So, I want you therefore to remember this page as we go on to the case that was made to BBC that has been ignoring GAGUT for 25 years. And the height was reached when the dynamics of why that was being done was getting clearer when our facilities were burnt down, were actually firebombed using laser. And, you know, the works that you all are having, and that's why I wanted Sahern and Uzogara and all those others that have gotten, especially the journal and the book, to actually be in a position to share with the audience, you know, how their spirit has interacted with these two books.
It let me know that with the truth of what we read from his book, proving that within each variable in the equation, every single variable is all quantified into each of those main variables of G, I, J, the comma, and J, proving undeniably that it is the original.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Did you all hear what Brother Zogara said? And that's similar to what Brother Sahern had said before. See, this is the dynamics of our reunification again. And the unification, that is, in other words, you have a brother from the East Coast and a brother from the West Coast independently giving a testimony that's almost identical. If you remember what you heard from Brother Sai before, and you heard even Brother Charles, you know, Uzogara had said a similar thing before, and they all agreed they were all independent.
Okay, what happened?
That's the power of the truth and the power of God that is behind it. So, Jim Crow is still working on the dynamics of Jim Crow in terms of indoctrination and falsification and all that, hoping that you are still in that mode. But that's why God ordered me to go direct with you. They have put an artificial barrier that since they forced you out of the mainstream in terms of studying hard sciences, you are never going to understand anything this sophisticated. But that's where God's being in charge comes in, because God connected you and me in ways that are way beyond the artificial boundaries of so-called schools and all that. The connectivity is in the genes. There are things that I can communicate with you that people will not see it as being possible. That's how I've communicated with you. They had no idea I could get any black person to see or even sit down and listen to a Riemann hypothesis presentation. And today you are listening to not only the Riemann hypothesis, you are not only listening to Göttingen, but you are analyzing Göttingen. To which we say, God, you are the greatest. Hallelujah. We're going to deliver your God order by allowing God's light to shine through us forever, because that's what you all are doing right now. This is the biggest mathematics forever. And by trying to pretend you do not have mathematical skills, you were nowhere going to be near this. And that is why now you have to go to the level where you're going to the universities and teach them
Before you disconnect,
and charge them.
If you click on it, you got it.
And then, but more importantly, like Sister Sonia was saying, to actually get into that fundraising mode, there's nothing you cannot do if you put your mind to it. The spirit that I'm trying to help you build here that takes you to the high kind of grounds where you could actually call any of the rappers, those who are conscious among them, one concert, a couple of concerts can raise the $10 million that we need. Certainly $3 million that we need right away. So the award has been made already. Okay, the African International Prize Star Technology have already awarded the prize for all this problem, all these solutions to GAGUT already. So what was done with Perelman was, you understand, a propaganda system. So you have to abandon that propaganda and stay with the reality to say, look, grand unified theorem has all theorems, including the solution theorem for Riemann hypothesis. That, you understand? And you have the spirit of Gauss with you. None of their system can touch you on that level. Okay? Not to mention the spirits of our own giants from where we derive, Imhotep, all through to, Benjamin Banneker, to, to Washington Carver, and any number, Andrew J. Beard, and all that. So, but you have to become continuously conscious of that in terms of living a life that is consistent with that. So, now, as clear as this is, clear math is still kidding himself. They are not an organization of mathematicians. They are an organization that their goal is to use the Jim Crow dollar to try to falsify reality. So what this you will be supposed to be in a position to do is to use your real currency, your brains, to raise the inferior Jim Crow currency. To say, okay, you want to use that, we could deal with you on that level as well. So in that spirit, as you go through this presentation today, you will talk to your other brothers and sisters, and you're going to come up with a way to raise this, the immediate money that we need, because you got to, like they say, put your money where your mouth is, or something like that.
This is your mouth.
Exactly. So therefore, you got to raise the money, believe me, and it could be a lot of fun. Okay? Because in the process, you will be taking people to not just high ground, but excitingly high grounds. Anybody that sees, a black person that sees the Göttingen is going to go to high ground. Anyone. And that's
just
what
show them the equation.
Go ahead.
I said just show them the equation and they'll look it up and they'll be like, oh man, they'll know.
And the testimony that you gave in terms of, yes, you look through the book and almost every corner that you could see, you see something that it's in sync with your spirit and even your expectation, and perhaps even beyond your expectation.
Mm-hmm. Another way of looking at it as well is, say once you get the book, get all of your other math books, like your geometry books or your calculus books or your trigonometry books, and look at what each variable in each book represents in space, and then put that next to GAGUT and see what it really means. That's when it'll hit you.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
And brothers, you too, please explain to them you're not trying to advertise. Give them a sense of how much that is coming out of your soul. That's very critical. Because I remember both of you individually showing your vibrations in terms of your contact with the book. So please try to communicate that spirit to the brothers and sisters. They're all waiting to hear what you're really saying in the spirit, that you understand that.
This is science fiction mathematics.
I would say for me, it's not trying to advertise it. It was trying to prove, because what you say in GAGUT is so magical and so huge and so big. It's like, wait a minute, let me check this out. Let me try to verify this, And so when you do stuff like that, like look through a math book, which I've done as well, and then you see what's in that math book, which is a prestigious Harcourt math book. It's huge, it's big, and this is a college level math book, and you look through it, and then you look at GAGUT and you like, holy smoke. What I
Exactly.
have
And to
here in GAGUT is even more powerful than this. And so
ex-
you like what people are learning in college, I have right here in this book. That's
and to
even
add
more.
to what he just said, if you look at what people like Einstein had done with E equals mc squared, that created the nuclear force. When you look at what Nikola Tesla did, he created electromagnetism. And when you look at what Isaac Newton did with calculus, gravity, that created the Industrial Revolution.
Yes.
All those forces are only a piece of GAGUT within even the G variable in there, including all other unknown forces, which can be infinite within this whole universe.
Yeah.
That's the possibility in this. This is why what you learn from this is not only going to be infinite, but not only going to be infinite, but also in a way, if you think about science fiction, because now you can be able to build things like these spaceships you see on TV or movies based on what the truth is from this.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Literally.
One more thing, Professor. What I
Yeah.
what I what I what I see when I look at the book and I looked at everything and then I start thinking, really, you can just really feel how superhuman this is. This is not human knowledge, though. This is way superhuman. It's like you have to be privileged to have this type of knowledge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I know John says the same thing. There's
Yes.
nobody who has touched or who has been touched by the books, those two books, and the ones before. But in this case here, where it actually takes on a current problem that there's a lot of propaganda about, like Riemann hypothesis. And you coming out supposedly without any background, so to speak, and yet you could start from scratch and begin to pick up, through GAGUT, and you begin to internalize it. Your vibrations begin to go in sync with what you're getting from GAGUT. And you beginning to see the truth. When, for example, I present in the G2j solution, and I say, well, yes, you can get what looks like a zero. In the Riemann hypothesis. But it's not a real zero because it's only part of the overall function you're looking at. All of you can understand that. If you're looking for a zero of a full function and you only get a part of the function, you can see how the zeros of that part cannot represent the zero of the total part, right?
That's right.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Yes.
Professor,
Yes.
can you also tell the other new people about what you were able to do with hydrogen and how symbolic that would mean? Like, say, for instance, with now what we know now about most of the compounds now, and the possibility of changing those compounds based on what we found out from hydrogen.
Oh yeah. Well, that's another, which is why the killings are just a distraction. But you see, God has a way of doing things. Sometimes something is intended for one purpose, but like humans talk about and some of them understand, we humans propose. Humans propose and God disposes. God is in charge. Therefore, it gives you a lot of power when you gagotical to know that, hey, you're consistent with the way of God order. That's right. It's not about being shy or modest or anything like that. You have to be precise, right? You can't add more or subtract. It's got to be precise. So that's what this is all about. So that feeling I mean, even with me, it has sat all through my experience of the 25 years. You know, in terms of sometimes I wake up and I look at it and I say, no, this is too big. This is huge. This is incredible. You understand? And but it can be very lonely in the sense that a person who hasn't been touched yet has no clue what you're talking about. Which is why I'm asking you all to just, you know, do as much as you can in terms of your best in trying to communicate with the brothers and sisters that are listening right now, how you reach this point, you know, in terms of from the moment Brother Sai, for example, has been waiting for the book. Most of you have been very patient, you know, patiently waiting for the book, and at some point, some of you have been kind of wondering, gee, what's going on? Well, we've been trying to really look for a convenient point because we know now. You know, you probably understand, wow, this is why they were trying to make sure everything is safe before we hand it over to you.
Without the information.
Exactly. So that's what, now you begin to see, yes. Yeah. So you begin to see why it seems as if, gee, you know, at some point say, gee, are these people, really, you know, are they trying to do something, you know, what is called it, deceptive or what? No. We, you know, this is ground zero.
And
you know, we know. Huh? Yes.
Nothing. Can you also mention to the new ones in here about how to achieve long life from GAGUT,
yes.
which is possible as well?
Yes. Well, it all begins with studying the GAGUT itself. You see, you have to remember the non-material part of our body, which is our spirit, the life waves, the brain waves, you know, our soul and all that, are what runs our system. They are the real power that we have because that's a piece of God in us. So, to live long life, that component of our system must be in the highest level.
Yes, hello, Mr. Blake. Yes, hello, Mr. Blake. Can you hear me?
So,
yes, I'm sorry. I was trying to send you an invite. Did you happen to get them?
So, mentally, you must be sound.
Mm-hmm.
You must have proper information.
I understand. I'm sorry.
You must be knowledgeable. You must stop acting. Acting for a little moment is one thing, but when acting most of your life, then you're not living your real essence.
But thank you for participation.
So that's all mental. Your mind has to be clear. Your mind has to be fed the God's order.
Told you about
so once you begin with that, for example, you know what's your constitution in terms of the material and the non-material and how they work together. You know, and then eventually you know the dynamics of your own life. But along the way you have to understand the sacredness in terms of the holiness and the eternity of life. Once you're convinced about it, then you know if God actually designed our lives to be holy and to you know, stay forever, then that's when you'll be in a position to begin looking for how you could make that possible.
Mm-hmm.
But you're convinced life was designed to stay forever, it will be hard for you to be motivated to search for a way to keep your life longer. But once you have the conviction, like GAGUT, you see, GAGUT, one of the things GAGUT gives you a confidence for is, you know this equation is perfect. Even a Cambridge-trained mathematician, and I was hoping we could reach his piece today, confirms that. He says GAGUT is not only a very big breakthrough, but it is perfectly correct. That's a personal professor, E.R. Abubakar, PhD mathematics from Cambridge University. So that says that you're dealing with something that is perfect and that is going to give you a solution if you persevere. Therefore, once you convince you are ready to look for a way to make life live longer, and you know that GAGUT is a solution to every problem, and in this case, you're looking for a solution that has been ordered by God, is definitely in GAGUT. That gives you the kind of rest of mind that you need the tool to search for the solution. And you've gotten the ultimate tool, which comes directly from God. So you have a feeling of, okay, it's only a matter of time I am going to get exact solution to my problem in terms of how to live forever. So that is how that begins. And you're going to look into your organs. Like I said before, death is associated with ignorance. Among other things, that ignorance is what is life. People didn't know what is life before GAGUT. But
Hey,
after
Professor,
GAGUT,
don't say
yes.
that yet. You know what? I was just at my doctor because I had to go to
Yes.
work on Monday, and
Yes.
I was in the physician's office, and then I asked him. He was going to do something on the computer. Then I asked him. I said, Doctor, can you tell me what is life? Because I remember you told me about this.
Yes.
And he looked at me strange, and he said, "What? What did you say?" And I said, "Can you just tell me, just what is life?" And then he
Yes.
started just rambling on. Oh, life is observing, and life is being with your family, and life is trying to be one with God, and I'm open-minded, and this and that. And then I said, okay. He kept rambling, and I said, okay. I said, Doctor, if you can't tell me what life is, then how can you save mine? I remember you told me that, and I haven't been to the. So he looked at me again, and he was like, "Okay, that was kind of interesting, But to myself, I was like, this guy cannot even answer what is life. Professor was right.
Absolutely.
Which pretty much, which pretty much proves that us as living beings aren't really that much different than trees. We just didn't know how to tap it.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that is what we're talking. Which is the state of heaven that I was telling you before.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I couldn't get over a sister from Montgomery who I was talking to, and she called. She wasn't prepared for the kind of thing that capital defense. I was talking to her, and she had some case of where she was terrorized and everything else by so-called doctors and all that. And but after a couple of hours talking to her, I didn't think, for no reason, I didn't think she was prepared, anticipating that somebody would be on the phone with her for that long, and yet she wouldn't even feel the time was going. So eventually, I asked her, I said, well, how much of what I've told you have you heard before? And this after like 2 hours or so. And she said to me, none. She said, no, I've never heard any of this thing that you're telling me before. And I even now had to laugh. That is how you identify this is a God order. God order. From Göttingen University, they have no problem dealing with it, because it's the ideal, is what everybody was looking for. But God disposes, God decides who God gives. So you're right. How could you protect life that you have no idea what life is? So when I tell you I can protect life, I start by defining life. And the dynamics of psychology, which is how people really go against God, is, even though this is available and everybody needs to have a dose every month, because even though it might sound like the same course, well, you're lucky if you understand 1% of everything I teach you on any particular given lecture. 1%. Because you know GIJ is infinite.
Yeah.
Okay, so 1% of infinity is quite large. So the point is, every month you need to, because the 99% you didn't understand in the first month, okay, to take you really 100 months before you can start really doubling. Of course, there's some dynamics that keeps it a lot more than that. But just because you see the same equation being used does not mean, like one of you was saying earlier, both of you were saying, the symbol represents everything possible. So in GAGUT, it's all the same. But in other systems, people look into them and they think they're different. And presented in one form can make it easy for you to actually understand another system. So therefore, you're going to absorb as much as you can in one sitting or in one lecture. Take the same course again in a week or in a month and continue going. So you must stay on the course every month. Then you're going to see yourself rise. Yes.
This is another question for any others who haven't come to the other briefings. This one having to relate to current events. Since all of these attacks on blacks have been going on, and the news is showing that, how can you tell them that since we are the original people being precious, how GAGUT can prove through the order that blacks are the most precious and taking us out would be a danger to all of nature?
Yeah. Oh yes. Well, again, it's like, as I said previously, it's like a 2-year-old and particularly a mother, and the father as well, but the mother particularly because the mother is directly in charge of the dynamics of 2-year-old in terms of food and bathing and clothing and all that. So if a 2-year-old or even younger, you understand, I remember the first time I separated with my mother. I was a little older than that, and I saw the value of my mother. You understand? I missed out for the first day. It was horrendous, absolutely horrendous for me. So, and then in addition, when I had to leave home for school and all that, all my people, but particularly the thinking of my mother dropping dead was one of the worst nightmares I kept on having up until my mother actually transformed on me. So if you could imagine being in a position to actually think of participating in the death of my mother, you know that will not be possible at all. I mean, that is, you understand, it's not something that I can even think about, let alone do it. So, again, I would imagine everybody was like that, but not everybody's like that. Okay? Because our state of minds are different. So Jim Crow going after black people is suicidal. It's suicidal because it's like killing your parent. But it is also the whole idea of so-called thick skin. To be a good soldier, I suppose that you're supposed to be thick-skinned. You have to have a thick skin. In other words, you cannot view life like I view life in terms of being holy and designed to live forever. You cannot be a good soldier, supposedly, if you have that state of mind. To the contrary, God is in that state of mind. Therefore, and since God is the most powerful, it is not anywhere near the truth or reality that where you have to be a thick skin to be a good soldier. That is the dumbness. Killing is not associated with intelligence in any way, because intelligence may design the tool for killing, but intelligence itself knows killing is not a goal, because if killing was a goal, you know, you wouldn't be alive. I mean, the thought of having to be blown away will interfere with your even ability to think in itself. So death is not a good thing. So anybody that, like a tiger, that they were showing a woman in China who was being snatched by the tiger and killed. And then I said to myself, I was sitting down watching the thing on there, and I was horrified, and I was saying to myself, here is a world that are boasting of superpowers and all this other stuff, and they can't even protect a mother from a tiger. It was the stupidest thing, you know, I've ever come across. You're building bombs and supposedly going to the moon and all this other nonsense. And in the process, I'm able to feel the power of God through GAGUT. Because in just seeing what happened, it stayed with me, and I could hardly sleep overnight. And I said, that's a weakness of the human pride and a human boasting and a human intelligence, that you can't even control a tiger from taking a precious life. That's how weak we turn out to be. So it's all about propaganda. It is not real. It's not actually substantial. Because your power begins with understanding the preciousness of life, especially human lives. And all people can get out of it. I mean, they couldn't set up a system. There are all kinds of things that I could design that to protect any person in a jungle, because the tiger does not have as much more power than the claws and the fangs. That's all the power of the tiger, and perhaps the weight. So if you put a barrier between you and the tiger, like a piece of metal where the fangs or the claws cannot penetrate, you protect it from the tiger. And so people wear shirts to protect bullet. There must be a way to get some shirt that can prevent the penetration of the skin by the claws of the tiger. Therefore, that should be on the market. People going to those kind of places must have that kind of protection. That's gargotical, and it sounds so straightforward. So it's an unnecessary death because of ignorance. The focus of the use of ignorance is for propaganda, phony, like claim math. They try boasting to the world. And the other day they were talking about, well, Clay will have to decide who solves Riemann hypothesis, which is why I have to explain all this to you. You can see that this result here came out in 2005. First of all, if Clay had any knowledge of mathematics, they would never put themselves up 2000, because they would have known GAGUT has already solved all the problems. So them pretending there is such a thing as unsolved problem is a sign they are no mathematicians. But as long as they have the propaganda on, people keep on believing them. So, but certainly by the time this came out, especially for Riemann hypothesis that came out of Göttingen, the same place that's making this declaration, and Clay still stood down to actually say, gee, we have to give up at some point. They don't have a limit. They're still pretending the spirit of Gauss, the grandfather of Riemann hypothesis, and the spirit of Riemann, sorry, the spirit of David Hilbert, that was the first person to list and recommend Riemann hypothesis as an important problem, that mathematician needs to put heads together to solve. They didn't know that that is the spirit of those people, and Riemann himself, who is on number 14. So you have Gauss, and number 3 and number 14 are all here testifying that Riemann hypothesis has been solved. And Clay, that is supposed to be the group charged with determining the solution, is so dumb they cannot. It's bad enough they are unable to determine if it has been solved or not. But when the ultimate authority on the subject, in terms of Gauss and the institution Gauss was associated with, have declared the problem is solved, and they still not aware of it, that is the lowest level. Okay? Is the lowest level that anyone can get. That's why now it's your responsibility to go teach them, to go tell them they're committing a crime against humanity. But thank God for, for black people. They can't continue that fraud anymore. They are holding humanity backwards. And that's what it means for non-blacks to be in charge of things. What do you expect when you ask an ant or even a tiger to rule the world? If that was tolerable, the tigers will be running New York City. But they can't dare come into New York City except in the zoo. They will be shot dead. They can run amok because they're under control of the brains, the human brains. That's the real power. So the point is, it's the same thing. Being well begins with your spirit and your mind and your soul. That's how you be well. So, and then from there, then you move on to the dynamics of how your life must stay attached to your body, which is what it means to be alive. Then you will need air and you will need distilled water. Distilled water, because distilled water is the cleanest water. What kills with the water is, whereas God made us with pure water, that's H2O, in nature, there is no such a thing as a pure H2O. The closest is the distilled water. That's what makes the distilled water very important. So, gagotical medicine or gagotical nutrition is simply gagotical. It means it's a God order. You can see the geometry of why you must do certain things before you get into it. If we're giving you a medication, you will get a proof, an infallible proof that such a medication is going to cure your condition 100%. To say that's a revolution is about a different, it's an understatement. And people like even John Glover here, when he was getting started with some of those things, he was testing the waters. When we would prescribe for him and he would do it, but not precise enough, he would get a partial result. Sometimes he will lead into a situation where he feels, no, it didn't work. There's no such a thing as a medicine doesn't work in GAGUT. because it's like 2 plus 1 is equal to 3. So 2 plus, it's got to be, there's no other, that's what we call medicine in GAGUT, is an infallible truth, an infallible solution. The same way G2j is an infallible solution to Riemann hypothesis. Do you all understand?
Yes.
Is everybody listening?
Yes.
Okay. So that's, so therefore, so when we say distilled water, there's a place for it.
Yeah.
Air, go ahead. Somebody going to say something? Okay. So it's a God order, which is why it's the basis of you living forever. As long as you go in by that God order, your life continues. So that's the summary. So now, but the Riemann hypothesis is very critical in terms of the fraud of Jim Crow, in terms of clear math and the BBC, and by extension CNN. Okay, so I want you to keep this picture in mind in terms of an order of God that was acknowledged through the greatest mathematician since antiquity before GAGUT, and his successors like Hilbert and Riemann himself. They've already, as far as they're concerned, they know the problem has been solved. The specifics in terms of the actual, you all have there, you have eta sub G2j is equal to minus eta sub 0 natural log of 2 plus log of u as a function of eta sub 0 multiplied by e to power I into 2j plus 1 pi. That's the exact invariant that solves the Riemann hypothesis. So when you meet tau, you understand, and you show him that, is where you're going to measure his reality. Any mathematician that's unable to see that as an infallible solution to Riemann hypothesis is not a mathematician. And the picture, in terms of the graphing of it, is shown very loud and clear. I think it includes the computation that were done using the Riemann hypothesis, except you understand the Riemann hypothesis is not the total picture, it's just a glimpse of it, which is what is called the finite field. So finite field computations have been verified by that geometry. So for you to disagree with that geometry is to disagree with the finite field computations, which makes you look like an idiot. Because the finite field results have been accepted. That's the basis of the hypothesis itself. And by the time you keep on going, the power that you derive from it is incredible. That is the dynamics of how you're supposed to live longer. That's the dynamics of what you're supposed to be doing with your life. That's the state of heaven. So therefore, what did BBC do? BBC ignored all this because they were in partnership with Clay and the BBC and the CNNs and a lot of system from Jim Crow. They bound together and say, well, they're going to ignore GAGUT so as to steal it, which is where the plagiarism comes in, okay, in the whole process. Because by pretending they're not aware of GAGUT, they can now say, oh yeah, they found the thing themselves and not able to recognize GAGUT forever, and say, no, they discovered it. That is robbery and it's anti-God. And you cannot really do much with such an idea. So we're going to show you what. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Let's get BBC piece on. So let's see the complaint that we put into Clay after they decided to choose a blackface to use him as a tool to confuse black people, for them to fall for this fraud, this massive fraud that is being attempted.
And Uncle
This
Tom.
is no, not this one first. No, oh yeah, okay. No, the complaint first. Bring the bottom first. Yes, you were saying something, Charles?
I said he's pretty much like what we know of as an Uncle Tom.
Exactly. That's an Uncle Tom, man. Absolutely. Which is why sending the books to all over the black world, including the so-called black colleges here, because the colleges in Nigeria and the rest of Africa are nothing but set up by the same Jim Crow system, heavily controlled by nonsense and everything else. So the buying of the books, all of you that plan on contributing to universities need to consider buying and going to make sure black people actually, study this, because so far there are very few black people that are bold enough to actually come to. I'm talking about black professors, okay? That because Jim Crow pays them to act as non-mathematicians, even though they have a. Okay, this is the complaint. Okay, yeah. Yeah, this is the complaint. Yeah. Okay. This is everybody watching?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Hold on. Okay. This is the complaint. As you can see there, there's a BBC staff manager called Dejan Kalofsky. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay. I have a letter written on July the 19th to us. The subject is BBC World Service. Okay, can you all see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, and it goes, dear Mr. Gross, that's Professor Gross they're talking about. I was the person on the phone just now before the line was disconnected. I will call back in a few minutes if you don't mind, when I find a more stable phone line. Best regards, Dejan Kolofsky, right? BBC World Service. Okay, title Mr. That's a professor, actually, Henry Gross. It's our staff member. Under 13, no. Email Fabit Yahoo, okay? Then you have station, World Service Radio. Complaint category. Are you all there?
Yes.
Yes.
I want everyone to concentrate. This is very important.
Yes, thank you.
Category is harm to individual and organization, and by extension to the entire black race. Do you understand?
Yes.
Do you all understand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the complaint. You're talking about the reparation. This is the real reparation. It's harm to individual and collective black people. That's the base of the complaint. Complaint title. It says, claims the BBC has plagiarized an article. Not only on the G2j Solution, but the entire GAGUT, because they have actually ignored GAGUT for 25 years. It's kind of like 2,500 years, of course. But because that's what has been going on for 2,500 years. But in this particular case, they're pretending GAGUT doesn't exist so they can steal it. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Is there anybody that cannot understand that? In terms of when you're supposed to be, you volunteer yourself, you appoint yourself as a news agency, a news organization that is supposed to be bringing the truth to the society. And the most important thing to happen to that society is totally ignored. Do you understand? Can you all understand that? So when you do that, you must have a reason. You must have a reason you're doing that. And the reason must be that you plan to steal it. So that's a claim. It's the BBC participating in plagiarizing of a blessing given to the black people, which is something has been going on for 2,500 years. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So this is more than just some kind of $1 million issue. No, this is the very legacy and the centerpiece of Jim Crow in terms of terrorizing black people, in terms of stealing everything that we own. That's what has been trained here. So obviously BBC is appointed for that purpose. And later on they will talk about tenets of the so-called their independence, the so-called total independence. But you're going to see that in their writing. So they complain, although they seem like they claim to be quoting, but that's a dynamics of actually them how can I say, putting their own words in at some point. So the complaint is, my name is Henry Gross, that's the staff that reported it, and I'm the assistant to Professor Gabriel Oyibo, who was the original person to solve the math problem you referred to in your article. This was reviewed by an expert called Jerry Laversia for the British Mathematical Association, or they call it Society. Our journal is called GAGUT Unified and Radical Mathematics Research Journal, Volume 1, November 2010. Okay, now they didn't, you understand, they refused to indicate, the 2010 is actually the year, but they did include volume 1, 2010. You can see that was done, the former journal came out in 2010, and for those of you who have the books can see that, in the journal, right? Right?
Yes. Right.
Okay. So when they put up a black face 5 years later on and claim he has solved the problem, can you see a fraud or not?
Yes.
Okay, that is what we're dealing with. So it is not only they ignore GAGUT for 25 years, they now, which confirms their goal, they're now putting an Uncle Tom, like Charles Usogari just said, an Uncle Tom, a puppet they can control, a puppet that will be helping them steal the goods from the black people. The black people who go front for black people, anywhere in our experience. They will get some chicken change and hand our goods to Jim Crow. That is something, even at your age, that you must be familiar with. They put a black face and they don't know anything. That's what Opemi Enoch represents. So, Professor Michael Atiyah, former Master of Trinity College, that's the one we showed you there before. One of the reviewers, as a successor to Newton, former successor to Newton. Then Enrico Enrico Bombieri Institute of Advanced Studies. That's Einstein's institute, who are really like a they see themselves as a competitor to us. Okay? That is based on E minus MC squared is equal to 0. That's the Institute for Advanced Studies. And also Pierre Delin. Okay? Oh, that's the last point? Yes. Okay. No. Okay. Okay, that's the end. So that's the essence of the complaint. Can you all see that?
Yes, thank
Yes.
you.
Yes. Thanks.
Okay. Is there something in that complaint that you don't understand?
No.
Okay. Date here, but the date that we put in was December 1st or something like that. Okay? Yeah, the message was sent in December, July what do you call it? Yeah, July the 19th, but the complaint has been there laying on their system since the December. Actually, maybe sometime in December last year. Okay? So that's the complaint. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Especially, I want you to understand that it's a harm to us as a people, which is one of the reasons for the complaint. You all understand?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So now let's see what their response is. Okay? Yeah. This is our response here. Okay. Okay. On Tuesday, July 19, 2006, 9:32 a.m., Dejan Karlovsky, okay, and you see his address over there, Karlovsky at bbc.co.uk. You can see that, right? On top.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Now to go along with this so you know what is going on. It's a formal response to the complaint on behalf of the black people. So I said, thank you very much for the nearly hour-long telephone conversation we just had. That's Dejan Karlovsky. I found it useful and enjoyable. A rare combination these days. Just to recap before a series of apologies I need to make regarding your previous correspondence. And he goes, I have seen the websites and links regarding the GAGUT theorem and expect a bit more material from yourself so that I can pass it on to my colleagues in editorial. Can you all hear that?
Yes.
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 Okay. However, as I said, this is another part you must really pay attention to. However, as I said, they are, as is the basic tenet of the BBC, completely independent in their decisions as to what they cover. Can you hear that?
Yes.
Okay. Now that is important for you to notice that. After all that you've seen, BBC is still saying the editorial board has a tendency where they can decide whether they want to tell the truth about GAGUT or not. Can you see how horrible that sounds?
Yep. Terrible.
In other words, the so-called editorial are going to ignore the Göttingen piece and still continue to ignore it is a possibility. And actually what he's saying that is what is going to prevail. In other words, he's saying they're going to continue the ignoring of GAGUT that has been going on for 2,500 years. Can you hear that being stated in this statement?
Yes.
Is there anybody that can see that in that statement in terms of arguing the
Yeah.
so-called tenets of the BBC's editorial? Can you all see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's what they're saying here. In other words, when you have 2 plus 1 is equal to 3, which is a correct answer, would there be any option in declaring that answer to be correct?
No.
Do you see the parallel here?
Yep.
Do you see why a so-called editorial tenets is like a faith or policy, that there will be any rational policy that will still consider as a possibility of BBC not reporting on this? Do you see any rational policy that will have that as an option in this case?
Nope.
Okay, that's what we're dealing with, which is why we want to share this with you. And usually this kind of focus on trying to prepare us for a BBC refusing to cover the thing, even though they call this an apology. As you see the inconsistency. If you apologize for something, as he indicated before, it says before a series of apologies. So if you're supposed to be apologizing for something you've done wrong, people don't apologize for things they do right. So if you apologize, obviously you've done something wrong, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then you say you're apologizing, and then you say there's a possibility that what uses an apology? What would you define as apology if instead of declaring 2 plus 1 is equal to 3, and you declare it 2 plus 1 is equal to 5, and then you say you are apologizing for that position? Will that constitute apology if you do not accept 2 plus 1 is equal to 3?
No.
That's what we're dealing with. So it's a double talk. And this is supposed to be a proof of their intelligence. So that is, something that you make a note of. So said the world, then it goes, the world service is, is at its core an international new broadcasting organization, and our editors are faced with, that's another excuse, a multitude of newsworthy events, yet with limited resources in terms of airtime, staff, and finances. You all hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they were putting Okwemi Enoch on the air with their limited resources, do you understand? They did not have this problem. And yet they will later on, as you see in that document, declare Okwemi Enoch to be a bad decision on their part. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Okay, so when they were committing a fraud, they had no problem putting out resources. They had no problem whatsoever. When it is time for them to correct it, all of a sudden they have budget constraints. Can you see that fraud?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Laughable.
it says, then he says, we do our best. As you mentioned yourself, the BBC is willing to listen in the aim of excellent programming. They call Okwemi Enoch fraud excellent programming. Does that tell you about what defines as excellent programming, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's
Getting
it.
slapped. Getting slapped on the head is excellent. Excellent. Yeah.
That's why they're going out of business too.
Exactly. So this is why this is extremely important. So now it says, now to the apologies. Okay? So it says, well, the first one is for the delay to replying to your original complaint attached. That's what you saw before. You understand? It says, we received a number of similar complaints at the time, and yours simply slipped through the cracks. That's, you know, okay, which is an excuse. It slipped through the cracks. This is not an excuse, but only an explanation, which I hope you can accept. And then he says,
who wrote this? A 4-year-old? Jesus.
Well, you understand? So he says, well, I can only think. I can only thank you. Yes. Yes. I can only thank you for your understanding and patience. So you're hearing words that to say they are empty is an understatement, right?
Yeah.
This is what is called an apology. Okay, is that,
Still the sentence. That's the end.
oh, that's the end of it?
No, there's a second page, but this is the last
Okay.
line.
Oh, okay, wait a minute. Okay, okay. All right, so it says,
As to the gist.
as to the gist of the complaint, it was about an interview we broadcast with Dr. Kwame Enoch. Okay? Dr. Kwame Enoch is the black face that was being used to divide and conquer black people in terms of putting it up and trying to steal GAGUT and handing it over him and try to present him as the one that solved the problem. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you remember the list that you saw from Göttingen, did you remember seeing Kwame Enoch on the list anywhere there?
No.
Okay. All right. Now, so then the next page says, okay. Oh, yeah. Who claimed from the previous sentences? Who claimed that he had solved the Riemann hypothesis? And then he puts in their website. And then it says, as we explained at the time, we are sorry that we made a mistake. Are you all following?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
We made is Lawson there?
Yes, thank you.
That's what she explained it to me.
Yes, can you hear me?
Sister Lawson, you.
Yeah, she's there.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize you were able to get hold of her. Okay.
She's been there.
Oh, yes, thank you so much.
Okay. Okay. This this is very critical. Okay. Now, so it says, well, we are sorry that we made a mistake in repeating the claim that the Riemann hypothesis problem had been solved and the prize awarded. This was an error, and we should have checked the story more thoroughly. Did you all hear that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Now, yes. The story had been reported elsewhere, and we spoke to the professor directly, who agreed to do an interview and told us he had solved the problem and would be getting the prize. Now, for you to understand that part of the fraud is the headquarters of Clay Mathematics had since moved to Oxford University, which is not too far from the BBC headquarters in London. Do you all understand?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Secondly, they went out of their way to invite Dr. Kwame Enoch, who, like I said before, to put it light, as an understatement, his name did not show up on the ranking of the mathematicians on Göttingen, which is the highest level. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yes.
They went out of their way, the same people that are crying about they don't have resources to guarantee a coverage of GAGUT. that is #1 work in the history of mathematics. Do you understand? Goes
Yes,
all their
thank
way
you.
to look for an unknown person in mathematics. They reached out for him. It's not like GAGUT, is trying to complain. They went out of their way to go look for him. That is what I mean when I said they were looking for a puppet. Can you all see that now in this dynamics?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Okwemi Enoch's credentials is not what attracted them. It is ability to be used to divide and conquer black people and steal what belongs to them. Was his credential that drew their attention. Can you all see that?
I can see it.
Yeah.
That's very important, extremely important. So they spoke to the professor directly, who agreed. It almost sounds like they begged him to the interview.
Yeah, right.
Contrary to what is happening right away, they're looking for every excuse to not interview us. Can you all see that contrast?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So there must be a purpose for getting hold of the black face, Dr. Kwame Enoch, and obviously it couldn't be his brilliance or his solution. Okay, because he didn't have any. Okay, so who agreed to do an interview and told us he had solved the problem and will be getting the prize. That's the second part. Now, you have a so-called world-class top news organization based in London who literally could have walked to Oxford to ask the president of the Clay Math, who is now located in Oxford University, to ask indeed what was heard by them, from Okwemi Enoch, who lives in Nigeria, is true or not. In other words, they didn't even need to go to Okwemi Enoch. All they needed was to go to Oxford and say, look, has anybody solved the Riemann hypothesis? And if so, have they been paid? Do you understand?
Yes.
Do you all understand that?
Yes.
Yes,
sir.
thank you.
BBC had literally walked certainly a driving distance to Oxford and get, what is the truth from, even though Clay is a fraudulent organization, they would have at least covered the basis if they wanted to. Oxford is much closer to London than Nigeria. You all know that, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
you understand?
Yes.
They chose the much longer distance to go seek for solutions. You understand? So that's the evidence of fraud. So therefore, he had solved the problem and is getting a prize. They published that, which is the way to overload you, overwhelm you with the fraud, so you're going to forget GAGUT. That's why this presentation is very critical. You were the ones being targeted, so you're unable to see the truth. So, and then they will tell you, well, Okwemi Enoch has solved the problem, and because you've been supposed to be, languishing in a special ed where you will not understand anything in mathematics, you would accept a fraud from Clay Math that says Okwemi Enoch solved the problem, and then you would have forgotten about GAGUT. Can you all see that strategy?
I can see it.
Yes.
Okay. This is what
Can everyone see it? Because I didn't hear everyone.
is very
Yes,
critical.
thank you. Yes, thank you.
It's extremely important for you to see the insult, which is what is going to help energize you into a state where you will say to BBC, nice try, but you will say they are fraud. You understand?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
All right. So therefore, He had won the prize. Certainly a call to Oxford in their so-called math department would have clarified they didn't need to go to, but they did. Supposedly went to Nigeria to find out, if you have solved the problem and if you have already gotten the prize. So without checking with Oxford, where the headquarters is, they published a fraud. Therefore, you can see it's a collaboration between the BBC and the clay math. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Please, if you don't see that,
Yes,
please,
thank you.
yes, please let me know if you're unable to see that.
If you have limited resources, how are you flying all the way across the water or something?
And more to the point, how is they couldn't check Oxford, which is right next to them, in terms of whether the problem is solved.
You understand? This is where your humor comes in. You need to laugh and relax. Do you understand?
Mhm.
Because once you are empowered with God, you know that nobody can challenge you. That's what the bottom line is. So this is supposed to be an apology and explaining what happened and try to call it a mistake. You can see how the agreement was and is still between Claymath, BBC, CNN, and Wikipedia. And the attack is, yes, go ahead.
And Smithsonian Channel as well, Professor Gabriel.
Absolutely. Smithsonian. And one of you was, and all the newspapers in London, in England, all that, Guardian, and they got even Nigerian newspapers, the African newspapers, and the black people. There was a couple of Nigerians that came on the Naira land and tried to do some evaluation. They were attacked. It was brewing a division amongst black people, especially those from Nigeria. And notice how they had to go to Nigeria. They could have picked up an Uncle Tom from Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia.
Even one in Europe.
You understand? Or one in Europe, or in South America. You know, it could have gone to Brazil, even though they would find an interpreter. Say, yeah, man, he solved the. No. They left all those black people. You understand me?
Yeah.
You can see the geometry here, right?
And they go to your hometown, your home state.
There you go. There you go. In that way, the fight begins right from the core there. And, and once it begins in Nigeria, okay, the next is going to divide North against the South. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And like they did in the Civil War in Nigeria, they will pretend they will be supporting the Yorubas because Okwemi has a Yoruba name. Do you understand?
Yeah.
That's what was done. They picked up, and this is part of what was being done here is to cover up the assassination of a real Yoruba mathematician, that is Professor Showumi, who was able not only, during this time, he saw the solution to Navier-Stokes in GAGUT. That's supposed to be another Claymath problem. For him, he was able to see, he saw the American Mathematics reviews and so on. So he saw the solution of Riemann Hypothesis in GAGUT. And he used to head the math department at Ibadan, University of Ibadan, which used to be a University College of London. Okay?
They would have probably made it religious too and said, the doctor's Christian and this Christian state and this Muslim state and you guys are not compatible and
yes.
And probably would have went there.
That's how they slaughtered Nigerians in the Civil War. You understand? They killed so many people and then tried to blame Nigerians Nigerians had the problem Nigerians had was being overwhelmed with the propaganda of Jim Crow. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yeah, wow.
They use religion, which is something that came out of us, and divided us. And then try to weave into that ethnicity that never really existed before Europeans came in. And Professor Chinua Achebe summarized it all and paid a very big price. Through the things fall apart.
Over 50 years ago. 50 years ago.
Okay, yeah, over 50 years ago, like John said.
50 years ago. So
1966.
1966.
1966. He said, yes, we lost our minds when the Europeans came on our shore. You understand?
Yes.
That's exactly what they were doing during the so-called Civil War in Nigeria. They used the religions and divide out people and try to take ethnic members and fix them within those religions. And so then they say, well, it's the Igbos versus the rest of Nigeria. And when they started out, they said, okay, the Catholic Church and the Christian, they're going to be behind the Igbos. And just within this last couple of weeks, maybe within this, definitely this last 8 weeks, we had a Nigerian couple, supposed to be Christians. They trekked in the Sahara Desert. They were running for the so-called persecution in Nigeria on the basis of ethnicity and religion. And then they ended up in Italy. They arrived a couple of weeks. The husband, they were in fact in a honeymoon. The husband was slaughtered. I don't know if any of you saw that horror.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. He was slaughtered. He was slaughtered, and the wife was stranded. So the fraud about saying black people are persecuting people in Nigeria was exposed, because as soon as they arrived to the promised land in Rome and Italy, the man was slaughtered right away. And most people didn't hear that. We kept tabs on all those stuff. So just like they use religion to divide and then bring the ethnicity in the Civil War, Okpeyemi is being used this time, try to link it with Christianity, and then try to say now Yoruba people, are being backed by those people against the rest of Nigeria. In the process, they will cover up the assassination of the real Yoruba mathematician, that's Professor Showu. And as they're doing that, they're also covering their disrespect of one of our legendary mathematicians, Professor Chike Obi. They disrespected him, and in ways that our people did not have enough sophistication to understand. He had presented a proof of Fermat's last theorem, the way that was expected. And they went and they called his proof a naive proof and disrespected him, and they were showing his picture as a person of his caliber, the so-called first PhD from Cambridge in Nigeria. They reduced him to working like a clerk or a teller at a bank in Nigeria. He was so disrespected that here at Tofape, we felt so insulted. And we have lined up a presentation that hasn't materialized yet. One of these briefings you're going to get a response to what was done to Professor Chikobi, who was our role model, one of our role models. This is what is done by this Jim Crow. It's called divide and conquer. Then there's the Boko Haram. Again, that was a case of using the so-called Hausa as equivalent position. They use the other ethnic groups in dividing and conquer. And the religion in this case will be Islam. So they said, well, Boko Haram. Well, Boko Haram, when you translate it, is foreign education is a fraud, which is a theorem, which is very true. There's no righteous thinking black man or woman, and certainly those in Nigeria, that would disagree with that. Do you all understand?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Because foreign education is like a special ed here for black people. There's no righteous thinking black person here that would disagree with a statement that says special ed education for black people is a fraud, right?
Yes.
Is there any right thinking black person that would disagree with that statement, as far as you all know?
No.
The same thing with Boko Haram in terms of foreign education that has us supposedly going through for 100 years, and yet we cannot build one car. That clearly is a fraud.
We have any technologies of our own.
No technology, we don't build cars, we don't build any engines.
Have a business degree with no business.
Yes. And over here, we know Professor, one of our legend, Professor Henry Clark, talk about, you understand, you are scared of being productive because the cracker says over here, especially, and the rest of the diaspora, if you dare show your intelligence and your brilliance, will kill you. So that's one of the reasons why black people are not productive. But the reality is that the inventor of the rocketry was a black man, Andrew J. Beard, darker than most of us here on the broadcast. He's a black man. If that's not enough, they said he did not have a formal education. In other words, he didn't get the skills from Harvard. He came from being black. The father of rocket science was a black man. So, but not only that, the rotary engine is also applicable in cars. That's the name of the invention, rotary engine. That use the movement, the science of the movement of the fluid or gas as the basis of producing power. In other words, a black man was behind the jet age, was the father of the jet age and rocket science. In addition, the single stroke or the two-stroke and four-stroke engines, which is the basis of all car engines, well, as far as I know, almost every piece of it was invented by black people here in this country. And since the car is really nothing but an engine, that says that black people invented the car. So, if black people invented the car,
wow,
you understand. And on both sides of the Atlantic, you claim you're giving those black people education, and they do not own a car manufacturing company on either side of the Atlantic. That's what makes the special ed and the foreign education in Africa are fraud.
Yep, it's true.
So therefore, you have the thing that is true, And yet, when you now supposedly trying to correct that error, you begin, so therefore, if a foreign education is a fraud to black people, therefore special ed and education in Africa are no different. And then you say, okay, that is wrong. As in Boko Haram, foreign education is a haram, meaning it's an African word that has been degenerated by foreigners. Okay? Haram.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So you agree to say it's a fraud. That means black people are victims of that fraud, right?
Yes.
You've been taking all our resources, claiming that you're educating us, and as much resources as you have plundered from us, we have nothing to show. We can't build cars. You understand? We can't even build anything. I mean, we can't even construct roads. You have to get, like over here, black people fronting for foreign companies who come and take contracts in Africa. Except I come from Africa like the rest of you, right?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
I come from Africa. And God ordained me with ultimate intelligence.
Thank God.
Praise God is right.
The God of Africa.
The God of Africa. So therefore, it was not because of your lack of brains that you're unable to build cars that you invented. It was a fraud of the so-called education, the special ed education, coupled with them, you know, something where you are a victim of a fraud, and then when it comes to what appears to be a correction of it, yeah, guess who is being killed? Those are those who are dying in the so-called Boko Haram war. It is the same black people who are victims that are being decimated, who are being assassinated, who are being murdered.
That's the BBC right there. That's how they report it. And they're a fraud too.
Yep.
Exactly.
It's true.
Just like they talk about so-called black on black crime over here. The same story. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there anybody there that doesn't understand what I just presented? Please ask questions.
That was gagatical. How
That's
you
deep,
decoded,
man.
how you decoded that. This is the first time in my whole life somebody's ever. I know you did it on the last briefing, but for somebody to decode Boko Haram like that, and you did it for the professor who wanted to know in Nigeria, that was amazing.
Well, praise God. That is what GAGUT is. That is what why we call it heaven, and it's extremely powerful. This is more powerful than any bomb. Do you understand? Because the brain created the bomb. So the brain is the real power. The bomb is just the dynamics of the brains. So that's how you know this is a fraud. And I was looking at this young couple, Nigerians, who trekked through the Sahara to run away from Nigeria and arrive in Italy only to have, they attacked his wife and he was trying to say, hey, what are you doing? And they slaughtered him, they knocked him, bumped, just like they did to Sandra Bland. They, you know, smashed his brains. It didn't take too long before he was dead. That was a black man who was convinced his own people are no good by a vicious propaganda, only to go to the real enemy and find out, but too late for him. The wife was crying. The wife was saying, I like to die. I don't want to live any longer. Because he came into a shock of the propaganda. And by the way, when GAGUT came out, in the air crash program to try to appear like they were being fair, they almost elected a black pope. Most of you did not understand what was going on. That was forced.
I seen that.
Yeah,
When that Pope
yeah,
died before the German. Yeah,
yeah.
I seen that.
That's right.
I was like,
Trauma-
what's that black guy doing there?
The traumatization going on over there.
I was like, they're not gonna pick him. They're gonna pick him? Wow,
There
that's
you
gonna
go.
be amazing.
There you go. There you go. It's kind of has similarities of Enoch, but not, you know, the Archbishop wasn't known to Uncle Tom like Enoch, but or the Cardinal, but the dynamics of how they were being used is similar. Can you all see that?
Yeah.
To make
Thank you.
the church look like they were fair to black people all along. They have lined up a black man for the Pope.
Especially amongst all that molestation that was going on. They had
Yeah,
to get the black
that's the
world
cover
back.
up. Yeah.
So that's what was going on. So that's what Okwemi was set up to do. It was an understanding, a very strategic, collaborative effort between Klamath, so-called, and the BBC, and the CNN, and any number of them. There are few of them, like, of course, the headquarters, which is the most important. That's why the Göttingen piece is the one to use. Now, we've shown BBC, reminded them something they should have already known more than once. When we were talking to them in December, we showed, as a matter of fact, when we talked to their personnel and asked them, if you notice in the report, maybe we'll show you again. Instead of saying, can you go to the complaint? Let me finish with this, and when we go to the complaint. So therefore they said he did make a presentation about the claimed solution at an international conference in Vienna. And the organizers told us that they were taking his paper seriously. It even features on their website, and they put a website. Now, Vienna, first of all, they talk about computer conference. Göttingen is mathematics, not computer. Computer science is secondary. Computer science is not considered as even mathematics. It's an application of mathematics. But when we talk about pure mathematics, that is Göttingen, not Vienna. And it's not like Vienna is a university. Do you understand? No, so a declaration from Göttingen cannot be compared with some kind of Vienna conference. Can you all see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so these are nothing to compare Göttingen, especially when you're talking about Gauss. Something done in the name of Gauss is not anywhere to be compared with some a group of people organizing a conference. Do you understand?
Yeah. Yes.
Conference that is mostly computers and not mathematics. Do you understand? If you remember what you were saying from Göttingen, it says mathematics first and computer science. And as you remember, Okwemi Enoch's name was not shown there at all. Didn't feature. They had no clue who Okwemi Enoch is. Do you understand? So that is it. So therefore it says, but they admit the so-called clear mathematics say the problem remains unsolved and will not comment about any claim being made. Do you understand?
I haven't seen that.
Can you?
Yes.
Did you see that?
Yes.
Okay. He said, please, it's extremely important that you see this the dynamics of what is going on.
That's the complete theft right there.
Exactly.
Still holding on to the lie.
Exactly. There you go. So it says the clay said the problem remains unsolved. First of all, the clay, who the hell is the clay? They have no mathematicians in clay. Who the hell is this? You understand me?
Yeah.
How could clay be deciding the solution of a mathematics problem when there's not clay is not the mathematician's name? Do you understand?
Yes, thank you.
Can you all see the fraud?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
when you see in Göttingen, you see David Hilbert. David Hilbert has produced 69 PhDs in mathematics. Do you understand?
Yes.
They all come from Göttingen. Clay has not produced one single mathematician. You understand?
You know, now I get it, Professor. You know, in America, you can have a person who has all this money, and they can set up different grants and different foundations, and these people are they just made millions, and then they just set up these grants and foundations. That's what Clay sounds like. Just some millionaire or some came together, of course, and then set up something, but they don't have any background in mathematics.
Exactly. That's a fraud.
If they would, sometimes it still doesn't. When it comes to the actually proving it, it still can't even go through there.
So it's a fraud. That's what this is.
Yeah, you must.
And without the briefing, you all would have been sold a bill of goods, as some people say here. In other words, you would have bought a fraud full scale.
I would have bought a bottle of champagne for acquiring me Enoch. I would have congratulated them without the briefing.
Exactly.
Know.
Absolutely. Because you say, well, this is a black man has something, except I'll be. First of all, he couldn't possibly know what a Riemann hypothesis is. Otherwise, he would have seen the solution in 2004 when I was in Nigeria making a presentation. And people like Professor Shoumi, who's a real mathematician, was celebrating. And, they assassinated Professor Shoumi after he declared his understanding of the beauty of GAGUT. He went on the board. We have clips of him actually rejoicing because he saw the solution of Navier-Stokes in GAGUT.
And another thing too, Professor, I've seen in the appendix you have 2 letters from the president of Nigeria.
Absolutely.
Two sealed letters at 2 different times in like 5-year periods.
Absolutely.
So that's amazing that top people around the world acknowledged you, and then these people come along and act like they have blinders on.
Jealous.
Absolutely.
And they put them on the stamp as well.
Absolutely.
National stamp.
Yes, and Charles Usogara, I know you were not born in Nigeria, but one of the reasons why I was trying to ask John to tell you, look, you start from where your family originated from, because charity begins at home. Because when you have more money, you could buy for other universities. I know you are considering Baden and all the others, but start from there first. So, because charity begins at home. One of the reasons for that is in the book and the journal, you will see a lecture that was delivered by a very brilliant Nigerian that hailed from Owerri.
Okay.
His name is Professor Fabian Osuji. He actually presented GAGUT to the He was a minister of education. He delivered such an eloquent presentation at our conference, at our workshop. And he had delivered a similar presentation to UNESCO, that's the United Nations. Because he became so excited. He used to be the head of chemistry department at our premier university in Nigeria, that's the University of Ibadan. And for a person, like those days, in the early days of so-called politics, he was from Owerri. He wasn't from Ibadan or from the western area. For him to rise to the point where he could become a head of the chemistry department, he has to be extremely brilliant. You understand? So now that's who Professor Suji is. He was a head of chemistry department, and what he saw, a piece of GAGUT that deals with chemistry, you understand, he was just overwhelmed, and he delivered a lecture to that effect. And in the briefing, okay, and Jim Crow saw that, and they went and and they attacked him.
Everyone all right?
Yeah.
All right? Okay.
Yeah.
They attacked him
Mm.
viciously and put a string operation on him. So this book will be donated in his honor.
Okay.
Yes, because he spearheaded, he was very instrumental in bringing GAGUT on to be presented in Nigeria in terms of the global presentation. For doing that, like Professor showed me, he paid a price. Although they didn't kill him physically, they tried to kill his, they tried to assassinate his spirit. So a lot of Nigerians have suffered.
Yeah.
A lot of black people have suffered as a result of GAGUT. Do you understand? This is not a joke, and you all need to understand that. Okay? Reverend Professor Ingram of Miami-Dade was assassinated. Even Reverend Jones mysteriously disappeared after he gave the Reverend King support of GAGUT because he was one of the closest person alive during that time. And everybody went along with him and said, oh yeah. And they issued a proclamation in the Baptist church for GAGUT. Okay? Because of what he saw with GAGUT. Just like Professor Suji, they attacked him, and before you know, he disappeared. And black people are not supposed to know that just because you are over 60, you couldn't be assassinated. Do you understand?
Yeah.
That is what Jim Crow used to blindfold our people. A lot of black people were assassinated worldwide. A lot. And that is why today you don't see black professors of mathematics joining in the briefing because they're scared to death. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yes, if they are in such an institution that's not black owned.
Exactly. So what was happening is, like in the Jim Crow, the former Jim Crow states dynamics, they forbade more than one black person together. If you are two or more black people, Jim Crow has to be present because they're scared you're going to be discussing something that will not be favorable to Jim Crow. Do you understand?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, same in America.
So that's what the basis. In fact, there was a plane load of people that were crashed in Nigeria, and they were all killed because of GAGUT. They attacked everybody they could attack. They put sting operation on black people on both sides of the Atlantic. Though there has been a lot of terrorism of black people going on as a result of GAGUT. And Okpeyemi is just a piece of that. Okay? Oh, of course, the other part, there were a few others, like, a couple of them. There was even one here in University of Texas at Austin, a guy called Professor Toyin was one of their operatives. And of course, over here on the ground, there's Scott Williams. You understand me? There are any number of Uncle Toms that were selected to do a few things. Professor Animalu reviewed GAGUT righteously, and he has been scared ever since and impacted some younger researchers like Professor Kwajoto and Echenim of the Delta State University. So, because, and there are any groups of Nigerians and black people worldwide that are agitating for Nobel Prize for GAGUT. But many of them are not heard of, you understand? But in fact, there were groups of Nigerians who want to draft me for presidency. Do you understand? But you don't hear about any of those happening. Okay? There are black folks over here in America that have all kinds of, and of course, recently you heard about it. Huh?
Oh, all of our news medias.
Exactly. Exactly. So, and you have the hypnotic jazz ensemble who have done 2 songs on GAGUT, in addition to those are from Chicago with KRS-One. Okay, KRS-One did the earliest rap over here. And people have been trying to do a few things in the African continent and so on. And everywhere things like that are up, Jim Crow has been attacking. And this is some of the dynamics of how that attack is waged. They have a lot of propaganda machines to block the understanding of reality by our people. Do you all understand? That's the dynamics of what you see right now in this report. Do you all understand?
Yep. Because the truth is coming out. Yep.
Yes. So it says, so therefore it says, but the Clay Institute said the problem remains unsolved. That is something they would have verified before going to Kwame. You can see that, right?
Yes.
The BBC is located in London.
Right with Oxford is close by. They couldn't check.
They could have gone, they should have known that and would have avoided Kwame if they've gone straight to Clay Institute and say, well, is the problem solved? Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay, so they did not do that. In reality, they did. It is just the dynamics of GAGUT now challenging them, that they're putting up this propaganda up. You can see it's a fraud. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yes.
If they had checked with the Clay math in the beginning, they would never have gone to Kwame Enoch. Can you see that?
I can see it.
Yeah.
And there will be no reason for Kwame Enoch or even look into the claims and so on and so on. There are tons of people who make claims about Riemann Hypothesis every day. That Kwame Enoch featured is how you know that that is a game plan by Jim Crow to fraudulently delude the world, to deceive the world, and then, you know, start a war in Nigeria. That was the goal. Because when they go in and then say the Yorubas versus the rest of the black people, there are folks from the other the black people in Nigeria who were coming and asking questions, and they were trying to slap them down and shut them down, including people from even the Yoruba speaking part of Nigeria, who were saying, gee, yes, they were saying, well, the Nigeria was asking, yes, they were asking well, if you have solved the Riemann hypothesis, what's your position? Was the hypothesis right or wrong? Kwame had no answer. Absolutely no answer. But it's all over the world that he has so-called solved the problem. So that was something engineered by Clay Math. Don't make any mistake. In a collaboration with the BBC and the CNN, with the goal of overwhelming black people with the fraud. And like you said before, if you hadn't got into this class, you would have been celebrating a fraud that Kwame Enoch has solved the Riemann hypothesis. So that's why I ordered you to come into the briefing. So I suppose in the apology, they're pretending that after they reported the fraud, which they cannot retrieve back, they can't change it. That's how you know it is a design, right?
Yes.
Most of the black people, like Haynes came over here. Is Brother Haynes still there?
Yes, I'm here, brother. Professor.
Okay. You remember you saw the news article from Britain, the UK?
Yes.
Where they reported that he had already solved the problem. You were talking with Brother Glover, and he said, yeah, you saw this report that Kwame Enoch had solved the problem and has already been paid. You remember that?
Yes, Professor.
Absolutely. That was done to target black people. So when you come then and you see the truth here, you will be in doubt, especially if you don't have enough confidence to say, well, if you can't see the G2J and be able to understand it and know that it is infallible, even if you're able to do that, you'll still be wondering, what is it that the BBC and all these newspapers in England and the rest of the world are reporting? What is that all about?
And
Do you
especially
understand? In the minimum, the damage it will do to you is to have you have doubt in the GAGUT solution. Can you see that indoctrination, right?
Yes, Professor.
Okay. So now that's why. So now you're seeing the BBC that was behind that fraud that you were reading. You're now hearing them contradicting the process. You cannot see them apologizing. What was presented by them was a mistake. You saw that, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So, but it has done the damage already, because it's very hard for you to erase what you saw on that website from your mind. That's the damage. So it is a military strategy. That is what Jim Crow calls intelligence. So when we went on your behalf and said, look, you are damaging a people, and now they give this half-hearted so-called apology. They're now saying they made a mistake by ignoring the claim that is not real. Clay originated the fraud and got the cooperation of the BBC. And they hammered the black people with it. They slapped the black people with it. The only thing that you had was God through GAGUT to take them on. Can you all see that?
Yes.
And so when they were presented with the Göttingen, they said, well, were you all aware of the Göttingen? Did you see the listing from the Göttingen that says that problem was already recognized to have been solved formally on their ranking of the mathematicians on the Göttingen list, where Okwemi Enoch did not show up? Nobody knows who Okwemi Enoch is in the mathematics world. Okay? And you are presenting such an unknown as having solved the problem with without any solution whatsoever. Nothing was presented. It was a pure indoctrination process, which was really an attack on GAGUT to make you surrender GAGUT. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Yes.
So while you are dealing with the fraud of Okwemi Enoch, they would then have you come into associating with them to ignore GAGUT, to believe GAGUT hasn't solved all the problems already. So Okwemi Enoch gets some money that is worthless. In the process, with your cooperation, they will steal the GAGUT from you. That was the game plan. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Yes.
You know what? It was kind of like how they did Michael Jackson with the Dr. Conrad Murray. You know, they brought in the doctor. He drug, and quote unquote, it looks like he drugged Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson dies, and then they take over his whole catalog. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That is the same strategy. That's exactly what's
with
going on.
Prince. The same thing with Prince as well.
Exactly the same thing with Prince. That's absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. That's what is going on here. So it says, well, the claim mathematics says the problem remains unsolved. The claim mathematics has no brains. They're definitely no mathematicians, so they will have no idea if a problem is solved or not. No credentials, no brains, or the fairness to decide if a mathematics problem is solved or not, because there are no mathematicians. The only institution, location that was verified in the spirit of Gauss. Gauss was a real mathematician. Göttingen was the head of the center of mathematics, the headquarters of mathematics in the European world, at least, before GAGUT. So at least they have the credentials. They produce mathematicians. They know when a problem has been solved or not. And they've declared that not only has GAGUT solved the Riemann hypothesis, GAGUT has solved all mathematics problems by entering GAGUT as the God Almighty's grand unified theorem. That's what has happened. Okay. Okay. Are you all there? You listening?
Yes.
Okay. So Göttingen makes the decision, and that decision is done already. And I remember when we were sharing the Göttingen piece with the first BBC guy, he was so nervous and so fidgety and so, oh, that's Minister? Okay. Was so fidgety and was, you know, praying to run, to get away, because he was faced with the real announcement that GAGUT had solved the Riemann hypothesis and all the other problems already. So they couldn't wait to run away. And sure enough, they had that, something they already knew since 2005 and before then. And when 2005 it was presented, and so they knew that. That's what decided who solved the problem, because especially in the Riemann hypothesis case, it originated from Göttingen University. So those have the last say in terms of the problem came from Göttingen. Göttingen is the one that decides. And by them declaring GAGUT as the center of the celebration, as the solution to every mathematics problem, they have already acknowledged GAGUT as the solution to Riemann hypothesis. That's what we've been going over before, and that is why it is important for you to understand that very clear. Do you all understand that very clearly?
Yes.
Okay, that's very important. So then it says, so remains unsolved and will not comment about any claim being made. They're not qualified. Because if they're qualified, they would have known that Göttingen has recognized the G2j solution of the Riemann hypothesis. The mere fact of them not recognizing that's what disqualifies them totally. And anything that is done by clay mathematics must be a fraud. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay. So then it says, once our error, so-called, became clear, we made sure we amended any online postings. What brother, the brother that saw the spot from England that I was just talking to.
Yeah, Haynes.
Okay. Hayes, what you read was not amended, right?
Haynes.
No.
Okay, so therefore that's a lie. Because when it says, once our error became clear, we made sure we amended any online postings to reflect the facts that that was just a claim. And we also did a follow-up interview with an expert in the field about the complexity of the issue and why it was unlikely that it has been solved. Did you all hear that?
Yes.
Okay. So that's another way of saying they now declare Aquemia not to be a fraud. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yeah.
But that fraud was initiated and propelled by them. Do you understand?
I understand.
Yeah.
This is extremely important. So especially you, all of you, but particularly, you know, Haynes, because when I overheard you talking to Brother Glover, you were feeling a sense of confusion. In other words, how could we be attending a GAGUT Riemann hypothesis briefing that shows the solution when somebody is claiming that has been solved already by another person and that the person has even been paid already. Do you understand?
Yes.
So in many ways it sounded like we were trying to deceive you and take your money and present you with fraud. That the people that perpetrated fraud was Clay Mathematics Institute, who is supposed to be distancing himself from Okwemi, but it was their own design. And it is just a fraud. I mean, a thing to give you a false sense of security, because they really haven't given up on Okwemi completely. Because if you notice their sentences, they say it's just a claim. Well, if the claim may be verified later on. So you must not stop. You have to make sure Clay knows that you understand them to be a fraud. Do you understand?
Correct.
And
Yes.
The way you do that is to make sure that every black family has the GAGUT books, especially the latest ones. You all understand that?
Yes.
And of course, as you can see, it has the Göttingen piece in it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Göttingen announcement that says GAGUT has solved all mathematical problems obviously recognize that GAGUT has solved the Riemann hypothesis. So that is done. That's official. That's the official position. You all understand that loud and clear?
I understood that.
Yes.
Okay. So this fraud, you have to respond to it by telling them they will not selling you any fraud. You're not buying it. You have to go to the universities over here and teach them the solution. And make sure the black kids are learning the solutions. You all understand?
Yes.
Yes.
So by the time they come up with their fraud, the young black kids will be laughing at them. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you should be laughing at them right now yourself, since you're getting the truth. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's returning back to the way God created you. That's how God gets even. Okay? So it says, so persons to reflect the fact that that was just a claim, and we also did a follow-up interview with an expert in the field about complexity of the issue and why it was unlikely this has been resolved, has been solved. It has been solved, but not by the fraud that was presented. So, and that expert need to show his face, because when we present GAGUT, we show our faces, right?
Yeah.
When we present the G2j, we present. I come in there and make the presentation, right? You can see me, can't you?
Yes.
Yeah, like now.
Exactly.
Always.
Exactly. I present the formula. You can touch the formula. That's what John, I think John was trying to, work with Brother Haynes, right? He was asking you to touch the solution to the Riemann hypothesis, right?
Yes.
That's
Yes.
Well, you didn't have anything like that from Okwemi or from Playmath or BBC, right?
No.
They just told you it was solved, but they didn't prove anything to you. They just present you with a fraud. And it's a lot of guts and a lot of stupidity and an insult on your own intelligence, that you buy something that is bogus, that has no substance. That's an insult which you must respond to, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And that part of response is to show them the real solution and how it is infallible. That calls for you getting your books and studying it, attend the GAGUT briefing until you're able to understand and prove every bit of it. Do you all understand that?
Yes.
That's the godly way to get even with the devil. Do you all understand?
Yeah.
Okay, it's like it's been solved, and the complexity has been explained to you. It's right there in the mapping between the U space and the S space that we went over and we continue to go over. I wish we had time to do more of it as of today, but today we're concentrating on the BBC's apology, so-called. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so then he goes,
Thank you.
we apologize that we have slipped below the standards expected. Okay?
Yeah. What standards?
And the issue raised have been discussed with members of the team. You'll understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So finally, one more thank you for both your patience and understanding. And our telephone conversation, please do send along any material that you think might be useful in convincing my colleagues in editorial. Now that is an insult. Do you understand?
Does
Yes.
everyone understand that?
You're gonna have
You
to
understand
convince
how that?
journalists who write papers of a mathematical problem like they know something.
Exactly. Now, somebody gets a statement from Göttingen where the problem originates, saying it has been solved. What other authority, when after they've declared Gauss as the greatest mathematician since antiquity, do you understand?
Yes.
Yes.
A document in honor of Gauss, the greatest mathematician since antiquity, says Riemann hypothesis has been solved already. Isn't that enough to convince any rational, thinking person in terms of a source to get something that is credible?
Yep.
That is, and then, but what else can convince this person if Gauss himself cannot convince them? Can you see anything else that could be convincing that
No.
is more powerful than Gauss?
No.
No.
That is the part of the fraud. So what he's saying is, this is wishy-washy. But he doesn't know that he's talking to the most intelligent human being ever created, obviously. Do you understand? Do you all understand that? Praise God is right.
The team. Let us get back to the team.
Yeah, we wish that.
Okay? So that is where you come in. So you're now being empowered to deal with Jim Crow, okay? So now you can write to the BBC yourself.
Yeah, I did. I did it already.
Okay. When did you do that?
The same day.
Oh,
What day was that?
which day is that?
The day I saw it. The day I saw it, I wrote to them. I wrote on the page about it.
Oh. Did you get any response from them?
No.
Aha. Well, they're going to put up any number of things here, but you have to do it as individuals and groups because this is a very serious issue. This is the dynamics of how they've been stealing from you for 2,500 years.
Yeah, I want to write.
The goal here
I
is
want to write Smithsonian tomorrow.
That's correct. Do that, and you have to go
Good.
as I told Cyhern, but you have to go there with a group of our people, and you have to ask for a police escort. You have to make presentations, but go to Professor Tao and say, look, you've been looking for a Riemann hypothesis that has been solved 25 years ago, and this is the exact solution. And if he disagrees, let's see his challenge. Do you understand?
Yes.
Do you all understand that?
Yes.
Sai, you listening to that?
Yes.
I am.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's see how challenge the G2j solution. Let's see how he can do that. That is like challenging 2 + 1 is equal to 3. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Do you all understand that?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
That's what G2j is, because that is what constitutes the G2j. The mapping from the U space to the S space is infallible. You have to be an idiot, not a mathematician, to try to challenge that. It's in textbooks. When you mapping from a U space to an S space, and logarithm is what you will get the picture that was presented. And that is the origin of the Riemann guess. Riemann himself didn't understand that. It had to wait until GAGUT come up. It's the most beautiful. It's the most beautiful presentation ever. The most elegant mathematics since GAGUT itself. It's so beautiful.
1.252. They said it was a half, but you found it as 1.252, right? Which is greater than 1 and less than 2.
That's right. That's right. That's a little over 1 1/4. That is the actual solution.
But they had fake zeros.
Absolutely.
And they thought they were on, but they were in the wrong spot. They had to move. You had to move over a little more to get the real zero.
That the real zero, and that is a God order.
Even though I don't really understand it,
they can't understand it because they were almost swearing there were no zeros in that interval, that area, because they don't have the understanding of geometry. Geometry is an African blessing. Only Africans, true Africans, can understand that. And that is why it is connected with the history, because the proof of the convergence derives from the African series, which is a series consisting of powers of 1/2. It plays a very serious hinge on of the proof, the divergence. I'm sorry, the convergence of the dynamics, which it is so beautiful. So you all have to make it a point to attend every briefing every month. You have to save your money, sell the GAGUT books, both the older ones and the current ones, and raise the funding, because this is to facilitate the assimilation of this God order by all our people. So we have to bring the resources together. Every money that you contributed is going to be used towards that. That's how you must see it. It's like a part for all of us to facilitate a God order. That's how you must visualize it. Number two, that you must be in the process of learning how to speak the God's language. That's what I'm speaking. That's why it flows. That is why it's effortless. That's why I can go on forever. Do you all understand?
Yeah.
And you were created to go on this path that I am on right now. So the more time you spend with me, the more you'll be able to get on that path. And once you're on that path, you're on a path to heaven. And once you reach certain milestones, you begin to feel heaven. That's where I am. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Thank you.
To feel heaven, you must speak the language of God. And you have to begin to develop a symbolic stamina like that of God. That's what you see happen. Time has gone. I can't believe it's been this. The time is gone already. So we'll have to continue another time for a next stage, because I wanted to go into the response as well as to show the Riemann hypothesis again. But meanwhile, you understand, but meanwhile you can ask questions. So now this is, so therefore it says, we apologize and all that. They communicated to the team. Finally, it says one more thank and so on for both and so on, and says, sending along any material that you think that is phony and is fraudulent. The only material they need is the Göttingen order, unless you all feel different. Do you all understand that the only material that is needed for reporting, declaring GAGUT G2j Solution and everything else comes from their own elite, most elite university, which is Göttingen, especially in the name of their greatest mathematics hero, that is Gauss. You can't ask for any better material. Can you all see that?
Yes.
So they've got what is needed already. Asking for any more stuff is a fraud, because there's nothing that could be better from any mathematics organization in the European world that will surpass something done in the name of Gauss, and that will come from Göttingen, the headquarters of mathematics before GAGUT. Can you all see that?
Yes.
So they already have a lot more than they need to do article on GAGUT or do a presentation on GAGUT. And this phoniness here is an excuse and a contradiction of their so-called apologies. So you're not going to be able to wait for them. It's enough for you to see what is called an apology, but you need to move forward, okay? Learn and teach the G2j solution and raise the money to, to make it official in terms of giving the award, because the award has already been given by the African National Foundation. So what you need to do now is to raise the money that will make it, that will fund that, and that is easy, because Jim Crow can do that. So can you, because you have a better currency than they have. You have the brains, they have fraud. Do you all understand? Do you all understand that?
Yes. Yes, Professor.
Okay, so that becomes your project. You don't sit down waiting. There's no reason for you to wait for Jim Crow. You raise the money and make the announcement. Do you all understand that?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what needs to be done. So it says, any matter that you think might be useful in convincing my colleagues in the editorial. That's nonsense. As I mentioned, please feel free to use this email address. We're still struggling to send them the links and so on and so forth, but we'll try to send in the letter, the main part of the response already, which we're going to share with you, and we could schedule that possibly for tomorrow, okay? Because I think you got the time has gone very far already, and there's a little more to be presented, so we can reschedule the third part of the presentation. Do you all understand?
Okay, Professor.
Yes. So, and it says people use that as, and he gave the address there
This third
for
part of the
future
presentation.
yes, for the future correspondence, so that we eliminate or minimize the possibility of confusion and delay. Now that's what he says, but like I said, you all should feel free to express to him, send him the Göttingen piece and say that's all he needs. They could interview anyone on the Göttingen, and it will explain to them that when the entering Göttingen in the name of Gauss is the grand unified theorem, if they know anything about mathematics, mathematics is the study of theorems. So when you have a grand unified theorem, you solve all mathematics problems, including Riemann hypothesis. You all understand that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so now you could, and he's supposed to be a part of the audience relations, BBC World Service. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, so if you have any questions, otherwise we're going to adjourn until, can we schedule one for tomorrow? Okay, we meet again tomorrow.
Yeah.
You all understand? Okay.
Yes.
When did we start? Like today, when did we start this?
Like I think on 6.
Well, sometime maybe like 11, so as to balance between the
11
time zone. Okay. Is Sister Lawson still there? She's probably gone to sleep.
Yes. No,
Oh,
I'm
you're still
still
here?
here.
Oh my
Thank you.
God! What's the time over there now?
Oh,
In
it's
Hawaii,
still
what's the time
relatively
there?
early. It's approaching
Oh.
9 o'clock in the evening.
Ah, okay. All right. Okay, so you're going to be ready for tomorrow? It will be 11 o'clock Eastern time. Brother
AM or
Sai,
PM?
how does that may be too early for you, right?
No, that's cool.
Sai?
That's cool.
Is it going to be AM or PM?
Wonderful. So let's regroup, let's get back again, do the third part of the BBC piece, okay?
Is it going to be
Okay.
AM or
Thank you.
Is there
Thank you,
any
Professor.
questions that we need to take on before we move on?
Yeah,
No.
Professor. Is it going to be in the morning or at night?
Okay. All right. So let's. and bring in some more people. You know, like I said,
In the morning.
the registration structure is such that everybody can participate, okay? Come in groups and we'll match you with groups and so on and so forth. Don't allow Jim Crow dollar, you know, stop you from this God order. You can see and feel this God order, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
And
Professor.
everybody see that and feel it.
Yes.
Well, praise God. And those who are not feeling it yet, by hanging around and getting more, you'll be able to feel it. And I know Sister Lawson wasn't preparing for this because John told me that you just made an inquiry and he was able to give you something you never expected. Is that right, Sister Lawson?
Absolutely. I feel very blessed and very honored. Thank you so dearly.
Well, praise God. We praise God. We praise God. And you know,
Amazing
your
conduit.
relative. Yes, well, that is what we deliver. That's the true spirit of the blackness. That the kind Marcus Garvey said in terms of we are a mighty people. That's what you're saying. And we hope you begin to feel it in reality. You all understand?
Yes.
Yes,
Professor.
Bob Marley. Remember Bob Marley and brother Professor Bob Marley, Professor, even Professor Dubé, who was a friend of Bob Marley, and Professor Jimi Hendrix were both assassinated. It's now on the public record on the YouTube and other places. They were assassinated for being too popular, too brilliant, too talented. That's the purpose of why those all, and even Otis Redding and lots of our people that mysteriously died. Now they're saying that foreign intelligence were involved in their assassination. Bob Marley was more popular in Poland than a Polish president. That's the part that cracks me up every time I think about it, okay?
Yeah.
he wasn't even from Poland, and yet one love, that's right. So, and Jimi Hendrix, you know, the guitar guy, he was more conscious than most black people understood, okay? Brother, you know, Professor Walter Rodney was bombed. They actually bombed and assassinated him for telling the truth. Most of you don't know who Walter Rodney is, but that's a legend. And Brother Kwame Ture, let me tell you a little bit about Brother Kwame Ture before you all go.
Yeah.
Brother Kwame Ture came back from Africa. He worked with Kwame Nkrumah and Ture, President Ture, and did all kinds, and you know, returned back to Africa. But he reached a point when he began to hear the beginning of GAGUT, and he came back here. He was having a prostate cancer, just like my father. And he sent people out on the streets to look for me. This is a true story. And he vowed that he had to see me before he transformed on. That's Brother Kwame Ture, the one that they call Stokely Carmichael. Okay? Kwame Ture. So one day I was sitting in Brooklyn with John Glover and a few of my friends and staff and family. And a young little sister girl walked over to me and he said, "You are Professor Yibo, right?" You remember how old the young woman, she must have been 10 years old or something. And she said to me, "Well, you know, Professor Kwame Ture says you have to come and see him. He has to see you before he transforms on, before he dies. He has to see you." And I was in a shock because he was one of my heroes. And I said, "Kid, are you serious?" And he says, "Yes." "Do you have his telephone number?" And she handed it over to me. And then he understand. So I took my staff and family members in a car. We went to Riverside Drive where he was staying. And we met and we had a great time, a wonderful time. We went over things and he was satisfied, kind of like my father's story actually. It was the last time he and I met, the very first time, because I really never met him face to face before. I had no idea he knew about me. That's Kwame Ture. Okay, most of you knew him at Stokely, Carmichael. And so that is a very beautiful story. A lot of huge things like that happened. Professor Bereshango, the same thing. He was getting going on GAGUT, and it looked like he was assassinated also. So you all must be godly focused and vigilant, and you must be empowered by God, because you're here to do one thing, which is to glorify the Almighty God. Do you all understand it? Understand
Yes.
that?
Praise God.
Thank you.
Praise God.
Praise God, everyone.
And so we're going to be meeting at 11 o'clock. We're going to get started, and those of you who are unable, if that is too early for you, you're going to join us, okay, later on. Do you all understand?
Yes, Professor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you
Thank
very
you all.
much.
Thank you, Professor.
Professor Glover.
Thank you,
So
everyone.
much.
And you can call John Glover anytime. You have his phones and everything. Call to report anything. If you can't get the call through, send email, okay?
Okay. Thank you, Professor.
You all have a good night.
Yeah, you
Good
too. Good
night.
night.
Good night.
Quality time.
Night.
Good night, and
Thank you, everybody.
God
Good
bless.
night. Aloha.
Good night.
God bless you all. God bless you, Miss Lawson.
And also.